When people were able to measure circulating glucagon, we realized that there was not just glucagon in a single gene, but we had these glucagon-like peptides, which were termed GLP-1 and GLP-2. And that realization in the late 70s and early 80s really started the next chapter of excitement in the field surrounding glucagon-like peptides.
Of course, it's highly rewarding to see this development. And believe me, this was one of the greatest days of my life when we had a patient receiving an infusion of GLP-1, starting with very high blood sugar in the morning, remaining fasting, and 4 hours later, this patient had an absolutely normal glucose concentration. So it was immediately clear to us that there is great potential to use GLP-1 as a parent compound for very potent diabetes drugs.
Amazingly, the first GLP-1 therapy that was approved came from the lizard venom of a poisonous Gila monster, Heloderma suspectum. Andrew Young and Amylin Pharmaceuticals partnered with John Eng to develop this lizard venom peptide as the first approved GLP-1 therapy in 2005. It's a remarkable story.
This was extremely exciting because I think some people had known about the potential in GLP-1 and related drugs. And then the first product, exenatide, was a product of serendipity. So people were not looking for diabetes medications when this peptide was isolated. And this was almost unbelievable that you could take this peptide, synthesize it, and use it without any modification for the treatment of type 2 diabetes. At the time when GLP-1 receptor agonists were developed, there was a rule established by the Federal Drug Administration in the US that any new diabetes drug has to undergo a major cardiovascular outcomes trial, primarily with the aim of proving cardiovascular safety. So the expectation was that you prove safety, no increased risk for cardiovascular events. And of course, these trials gave a chance to also prove superiority. And that was what came out.
Very quickly thereafter, probably 3 or 4 years later, there were efforts underway to make it once weekly. And then, of course, the bigger companies with their skill in chemistry made even more effective once weekly therapies. And then the latest chapter, as you know, has been the development of an oral therapy, oral semaglutide. So we've gotten much better now at providing GLP-1 therapies in different options that will appeal to different segments of the population.
Approximately every 2 years, there is a new compound which is more effective, both with respect to controlling glucose, but also with reducing body weight. And this development certainly has not come to an end. I believe we see developments right now that regarding the effectiveness in all three aspects. That means glucose control, weight reduction, and cardiovascular benefit. We will probably see drugs that are even more effective than those that we have right now. And I think this is something that we had not hoped for when this whole story started.
I have to say I've been sort of disappointed in how slowly we've gone from development and approval of the drugs and demonstration that these drugs cause weight loss, that you can have minimal nausea and vomiting, you can reduce heart attacks, strokes, and death. And despite knowing all this for a long period of time, the market penetration of these drugs is like 5% of people with type 2 diabetes. And there are reasons for this. The drugs are expensive. You know, doctors are reluctant to adopt new therapies that they're not familiar with. But I think over the last 5 years or so, with the development of the more effective therapies and greater weight loss and uniform recognition of the reduction in all-cause mortality and cardiovascular death, we're starting to see a greater uptake in awareness. But it takes a long time to change practitioners' decisions. We have a big challenge in medicine to implement innovation.